So, hello, welcome everybody to our Women in AI Roundtable today. And we're talking today about reclaiming our future as women. And I'm absolutely delighted to have this 45 minutes thought-provoking and energizing session with a group of super powerful, influential women that I've brought together from across different industries who are going to share their wonderful experience. Now, before we dive into our panel discussion, and I also spend the time introducing those women, what I'm going to do is give us a little bit of a work-based context around why this is so important and why we're talking about this topic, and I guess why now more than anything else. So I guess we've all seen the news recently. The UK workplace continues to face significant structural gaps for women. Even as roles and skills and technologies transform, we have challenge. Now, in April 2024, women that were working full-time earned approximately 7% less per hour than men. Now, that's across all employees, and the gender pay gap rose to 13.1%. And this gap widened sharply with age. And I know we've got women of all ages joining and listening to this call, but you know what? Women aged 50 to 59 in this bracket face a disparity of around 18.9%. Now that equates to 69 days of unpaid work per year. Now, I wouldn't be having that. At a national level, the UK has slipped to 18th place amongst the OECD countries. Now, we've got all kinds of challenges coming at us as women. We've got changes in technology, we've got automation, of course, we've got the much talked about AI. Microsoft's latest research shows that tasks involving communication, coordination, information gathering, now those are areas where women are usually overrepresented, have some of the highest AI applicability scores, which means those roles are likely to transform. Now, as new roles emerge, traditional pathways evolve, the question for women is not just about how we keep up, but about how we lead this change and shaping this AI, this automation, and new models of how work are introduced. Now, that sounds bleak, but it really isn't, because our day-to-day is going to be about practical optimism. It's about recognizing the challenges that are being thrown at us, but we're not going to be defined by them. Focusing on our choices, our opportunities and influence, and it's about how we can bring the future to the workplace and help define it. And I have invited this super bunch of women to answer some questions and give and share their thoughts about what they see as some of the solutions. Now, I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves. They are absolutely capable of sharing their own stories. And I'm going to start off today with Sarah. Sarah, do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself and share a little bit about the role that you do?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for that, Annabelle. I'm Sarah Shafi, Leadership and Management Development Partner for St John Ambulance. I came into this role, the role was actually replaced the head of learning and development, and we focused on leadership and management development, as we recognised across the organisation that there was an underinvestment in both management, in managers and leaders, and that has had an impact, a huge and quite significant impact on culture and behaviour, and that obviously impacted performance of the organisation. So there's a big drive on actually building in management efficiencies, and that was the first port of call really in the work that we're doing, is because we recognise that management impacts organisational performance in more greater ways than leadership does. So the focus has been there, but it is a beast, and lots of shifting sands and challenges. But yeah, I mean, from a third sector perspective, because we are a charity, we are very good at meeting the senior women in leadership quotient. However, that doesn't necessarily translate out into other sectors, across the nation. So that's another one to address. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Do you want to hand over for us?
Yeah, I'd like to hand over to Eva.
Hi everyone, I'm Eva Lamont. I'm the Workplace Experience Director for CBRE, which is the biggest real estate company in the world. I manage their EMEA HQ in Bond Street, looking after their colleague and client experience while they're on site. You can kind of see my building in the background.
Wonderful.
Handing over to Nicole.
Eva. Hi, my name is Nicole Sloan. I'm one of the senior project and program managers at an outsourced organisation called TP. I've been here for about 6 years now. We're very lucky. I say lucky, it should be the norm, but we are very lucky to have a very strong female-led organisation, particularly in my team, and alongside that, some very strong male advocates of us as well. Generally, within my working day to day, I would run multi-million-pound programs, as a lot of these women will do for sure. We do work across different geographies as well. So me particularly focused on UK, Ireland and South Africa. My working history has been very male dominated. So I've been working starting from nuclear, working into construction and property, as well as events and sales. So I would focus on everything from operational delivery as well as recovery. So yeah, really keen to be involved in this conversation today. I then would have to hand over to Hannah.
Thank you, Nicole. Hi, I'm Hannah Johnston. I'm the Head of Talent and Culture for Group 1 Automotive. My role oversees talent acquisition, early careers, as well as learning and development. And really that's an intentional step to see some synergy between the different functions and ensure that we're being strategic about our talent pipeline, our talent development and future-proofing us for success. So my industry, Group 1 Automotive, is part of the car industry, part of the automotive industry, also male dominated. We've enjoyed an increase from 0% female representation to 25% female representation in our executive committee. So something we're very proud about and intend to continue championing. So thank you for having me. I'd like to hand over to Laura, please.
Thank you, Hannah. My name is Laura O'Brien. I'm the Global Finance Change Manager at NSG Group. We are a global manufacturer of architectural, automotive and technical glass. My role focuses on how we communicate and how we lead people through change across a complex global organisation, helping teams stay connected and confident during periods of transformation. I'm truly passionate about women in the workplace and women in leadership. As we mentioned before, the world of work is changing so quickly, and it's vital that women have a voice in shaping what comes next. At NSG, I participate in our Women's Network, which brings colleagues together each month to share experiences, develop skills, and support one another. We're also proud to be finalists alongside the University of Liverpool in the National Knowledge Exchange Awards for our collaborative work, creating opportunities for female postdoctoral talent. This also supports our broader ambition to reach 30% women in management by 2030. So for me, conversations like today are a chance to be honest about what's changing, what's challenging and what's possible, and how we explore that we can collectively promote and design workplaces where women genuinely thrive. I'll now hand over to Alison.
Thanks, Laura. So my name's Alison Cobb. I'm a Senior Technical Project Manager for Red Hat. So we're a software company. A lot of our ethics are about being open and transparent. Our code is open. And it kind of lends itself through to the workplace as well. We've got a fantastic Women in Leadership Council, and we also have male allies who are very much behind us. So yeah, fantastic place to work for. So yeah, this is very very close to my heart. Working with other fellow women to like really drive this through. I think the technical industry is quite still male dominated, but I think through doing these forums, I think it's definitely helping. So I became senior project manager a few months ago, and in our little cohort of project managers, all the senior PMs are women, which is fantastic. So yeah, that's me. Thank you.
That is fantastic to hear, and not a surprise. So that's wonderful. Thank you very much to all of the panelists for your introductions, and actually wonderful to hear already the start of some of your experience, some of your depth of knowledge, and that's what we're going to be drawing out today, and thinking about actually some of the successes, some of almost your hints and tips, some of your own experiences as well, and lots of best practice, because it sounds like a lot of headway is being made in some of your organizations, and it also feels as though there is momentum there. Together, we have pulled some questions for our panel to discuss over our period of time together. And clearly these are likely to bleed slightly from one question to another. So absolutely keen to hear all of your thoughts on those questions. And the navigation of the questions I will manage. I've pulled together several for us to get going on. And let's kick off now. Let's get some meat on the bones, as we say. This is one for me that is just so important. Staying visible and relevant. Okay, so women staying visible and relevant. How can women remain confident and visible as roles evolve? Now, we talked about that role evolution. Okay, as we talked about that role evolution, and how, and especially because new skills are becoming essential to us. What do we do in order to remain confident and visible? Confident being really important thing, I think, for women in the workplace, where, you know, traditionally it's not stereotyping to say imposter syndrome could perhaps be a challenge. Any thoughts straight away around that any of you folk would like to share on how we can remain confident? Sarah, let's go to you first, please, my friend. You've got your hand up there really well.
Right. Good question. Thanks for that. I think one of the things that jumps out when we look at visibility is, and we see what's lacking in, and when we think about leadership matrix and what the expectations are, is all around communication. And I think this is where women can really be on the front foot here, because, you know, naturally we're stronger communicators. And if we give ourselves the opportunity to build our confidence in our ability to communicate, then that visibility can come to the fore. There's you know, we're certainly across our organisation, one of the key things that's been coming out in our surveys has been poor visibility in leadership and poor communication. So our internal comms has been a challenge. I'm delighted that we've just welcomed a new CEO who's female, Shona Dunn. And she's really stepping into that visibility space. She's making herself available. She's listening and she's responding. And I think this is where we can really set ourselves apart in that world. And I was at a Winter leadership event last week. And actually, from a global level, the key qualities of leadership, the top one used to be, until very recently, was courage. And now that has been replaced by empathy.
Okay, yeah,
and
sure.
So, you know, it puts us on the front foot. If we build our confidence in the term of what we term soft skills, I'm not a fan of that term, but if we really build that, we're recognizing the impact and the importance and the significance that is playing on organizational performance and results. So I think we've got something that we can start to sort of galvanize women together and say, hey, you know, we're already doing this. So I think there's a lot to be done in that kind of visibility, and learn from women and how we do it. I think from a biological perspective, sorry, I'm going on, I get really passionate about this stuff, but from a biological perspective, let's think about the female, is that we're naturally born accommodators. We know how to, we're biological, those who are blessed with it, being able to feed another. We grow a baby inside us if we're able to do that. We accommodate. So that understanding, that empathy, that ability to read people around us is actually already innately there. So if we can capitalize on that from a business perspective, I think there's so much more that we can do.
Okay, thank you. No, not at all. But I'm hearing there something that we talk a lot about on our Women in Leadership programs, which is around developing that skill of empathy and actually championing that and making sure that appears as a success factor in organizations. Absolutely right. Thank you, Sarah. Eva.
I think for me coming into CBRE, the confidence piece was lacking. I think it was my first corporate. I was new to real estate, and so having that voice in the room was super important for me I needed the experience to then feel more confident. So I think as women, just understanding what our weaknesses are and working on them. I hate public speaking, but I've now been hypnotized for it. I'm going to Toastmasters. I'm trying to better myself so that when I do get into the room, and as women, I should be with the males in the room. We should be there, but it's making sure that I feel confident enough and I've prepared enough that when I get in there, I can do the best that I can.
Nice. So what we're hearing there, actually, the theme that I'm going to pull out of what you've just shared there is continuous learning, is actually understanding our challenges and then turning those into learning opportunities. And the theme for me is remaining relevant and actually continuously learning new skills. Okay, so creating pathways for continuous learning for women, incredibly important there. Nicole.
Hi, yeah, thank you. So just a quick, the notes at the beginning, those stats are quite shocking.
Yeah.
When you have a look at those, like the disparity there is it's disappointing. I think when we're looking at it in the context of AI in particular, it's then understanding, do we have an opportunity here, which I think we do. From the information that we've been working in locally within our own AI journey, within our own business, we know that there is a potential for magnification of the bias that we're already seeing within society. So actually, when we started talking about this topic in a separate focus group, the first thing I did was go away, speak to my own little AI tool and ask that tool how I need to prepare myself within my role to future-proof how I sit within an organization. So really understanding what am I expecting to be able to potentially lose as roles and responsibilities going forward, but also where are the opportunities? So myself, my team, we can prep, we can get ahead of where we think we're going to be in 6 months, 6 years, and make sure that we're doing that kind of head work. Interesting point, Sarah, that you made around the accommodation piece, which I actually agree with from a biological perspective in one sense. I do have a slightly different take on it though, with regards to where we sit, social conditioning versus actually the opportunity we have as women. If you strip that away, my view is just to turn up with confidence, get involved in the discussions, bring your confidence to the table, because ultimately no one is more qualified to give your view. You are uniquely qualified to come to the table and inform, and we have the opportunity to inform the rollout and the development, particularly in the AI field, and how that can impact our own roles and our development and our place in the workplace going forward.
Oh, excellent. Actually, linking what a lot of you are saying there's some work around reframing, there's that work around courage, there's that work around empathy, but there's also what your kind of irony in using AI to predict AI, which is sort of cheeky but great. It's a strategic approach actually to upskilling ourselves and spotting that opportunity, being on the front foot to think about actually identifying what skills we are going to need, sharing those. And I'm guessing you're sharing those across your team and across women's groups as well. What a great tip for people listening to the call. Thank you. Laura, I'm over to you first before I will then go to Alison and Hannah.
Yeah, of course. And just building on what the other ladies have said here. And one thing for me is around that, I say that confidence tip. So we talk a lot around like imposter syndrome, but that can sometimes signal growth. So if we're slightly uncomfortable, we're in the right zone. And one thing for me is, ask for feedback. I continuously ask for feedback, whether it's positive, constructive, gauge where I'm adding value, see where I can do more or less of, whilst also having that clear awareness of the company and team strategic direction and how we can support it in our respective areas. And if we're not sure, ask. So one thing for me is leaning in, and we've alluded to it in, Nicole, you mentioned on your own narrative, adopt that learning mindset and embracing the technology as as a tool of empowerment rather than displacement as well, and be comfortable with not knowing as well, you know, and not being afraid to ask.
Fantastic. What great information. I mean, you are as well kind of throwing down the challenge of taking some small risk there, Laura. You know, that almost feeling discomfort and knowing when you're doing that, actually, that's a development opportunity.
Yeah.
Reframing, if you like, imposter syndrome into a bold opportunity.
Yes.
And thinking about what opportunity you're taking as a woman. Fabulous. Again, excellent. Alison.
Hiya. Yeah, I think for me, staying visible is sharing achievements. And I think one massive achievement for me was moving from sectors. So I was in the manufacturing industry for 25 years, mainly as a project manager. And then COVID hit, and then I kind of had a bit of a rethink of where I wanted to be. I always wanted to get into IT and software. So yeah, after 25 years, took the plunge and moved to Red Hat as a technical project manager. I think very much the skills that I had as a project manager, it was very traditional. I could transfer, and then fast forward 4 years later, got very much into the agile way of working, done lots of training with Red Hat, which they've fully supported with me with. I was the finalist, as we said before, for the Women in Tech Award this year. My manager nominated me, so I went to. I was shortlisted, went to the finalist awards ceremony. My team was with me and supported me. And I think it just goes to show that, I guess, don't be frightened to change sectors completely, no matter what age you are, because, you know, if you've got a good supportive team and company, you know, it can happen. And I think, you know, I feel like I've gone from strength to strength, you know, with that move, and I've never looked back, really.
Oh, great story. Great story. Great story for people listening now about transferable skills, about creating systems and practices within organizations that can identify and measure transferable skills so that we are able to either shift sectors, shift roles. And we talk more about sort of portfolio careers really now. So thank you for that, Alison. Hannah.
Thanks. Wonderful comments already. And it's a bit of a wrap up really from me, because what I'm hearing, I think there's it all really starts with mindset, our own mindset for ourselves. So everything I've heard today about the strengths and confidence we should already have, I think we have every reason to be confident about our ability in this new space. So I'd really sort of invite everyone to think about themselves as earning this and being you know, worthy of this sort of new challenge that's ahead of us. On top of that, you know, thinking about the nerves that's come up from a few people, this kind of discomfort area. So for me, nerves, they crop up every once in a while, and actually they help me be my best. So I think we should all take an opportunity to be a bit nervous, to be a bit uncomfortable with things, and actually think it's going to raise our game, it's going to make us keener, more aware, more able to take on the new learning. And then the interesting thing for women in this space right now, I think, is that actually we're in good company. Although those stats that you shared at the beginning are a little bit disquieting and are a little bit disappointing, to Nicole's point, actually, regardless of gender, everyone's embracing something new right now. So we're in good company, lots of people learning new things. And yeah, women, we have every right to be learning those new things and at the table designing and crafting those new things as much as anyone else.
Oh, thank you so much. Brilliant contribution, Hannah. And you're right, you know, we've earned our place. So absolutely. Thank you. Sarah, last word from you.
Yeah, it was just a really practical tip, really. And just on the back of sort of listening to what Laura was saying and Nicole and everyone really. From a talent development and you know, performance development perspective in the organisation, what we are looking at now is how we can use AI to be a critical friend, so to have it in our pocket really to support us. And I don't know if people are using Copilot right now, but with Microsoft Teams, we can now put into Copilot a question to analyse our emails, our texts, our documents, and produce a profile based on, was it MBTI or DISC or Insights or Clifton Strengths or whatever. So we can get a very personalised, tailored analysis and feedback if we're looking for feedback with growth objectives, in that we can start doing that now, so we can support if we're struggling to get feedback, if we're struggling to build in those feedback loops, or it's still got a time and a way to go. If we've got the access to AI in that space, we can ask it some questions about our own personal growth and tailor it to it personally, so we can have that immediate critical friend to give us some constructive feedback for growth.
Thank you. And Sarah, great. I love a practical tip. I think most people listening to today's session are thinking practically what they can take away. Superb tip. At the end of this, we will provide some help for people taking part in today's session, some pointers. So that's a great start to that. And we're hearing all kinds of kind of hints, tips, practicality, as well as shared experience, which is perfect. I'd like to talk briefly now about strengths that we can leverage. Now, we've dipped our toes into this area, and typically women associated with empathy. But very briefly, and in a few words, if we can, what unique strengths do we believe that women bring? Now, what kind of unique strengths do we think that women bring to this changing business environment? But also, how do we share those? How do we make sure that those are amplified across the organization? So thoughts around what unique strengths women bring. Now, we've talked about empathy being one. Anything else that you think women are absolutely superb at, that we should amplify and that we're great at, that we can bring to this environment? Please share now if you feel you've got something to talk about within that. I myself will go straight to that skill of leadership, because I think we make fantastic leaders. So all of the subsectors that fall underneath that nominal title of leadership are within our gift for sure. I'm going to go actually to I think Laura had your hand up first there. What kind of unique strengths do you think women have?
Yeah, so we talk about emotional intelligence quite a lot as women as well, and it's leveraging those strengths strategically. So, reading the room, understanding the unspoken dynamics, and influencing accordingly. So, paying attention to the cues that people give, whether it's body language, tone, silence, energy, and treating those signals as information that helps guide that conversation as well. And we mentioned before around soft skills, but translating those softer skills into business outcomes. So, that will help us build credibility and influence. So, for example, our team's collaboration led to, a 20% faster delivery, and it's less, I say, data driven, but it's using the skills that we as women have in, emotional intelligence or similar as data.
Yeah, I love that. Put some data behind it. Absolutely right. Put some data behind that. Thank you. Thanks, Laura. Sarah.
Yeah, not wanting to be controversial, but we can use this thing called instinct and the kind of witch in this. I think women have that strength and that ability. I think what you were saying, Laura, absolutely spot on, to be able to read the room, to to sense body language, to get a sense of what really is going on that's not being spoken, tapping into that, but also how we are, physically tuning into where people are, what's really going on, and we can bring that in again, tying back into empathy, but lead with it. And I think just taking that to the fore, to be able to recognize that is actually a huge strength, again gives us an advantage of being able to create connections, and actually it being meaningful and on others' agenda as well.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Nicole.
Yeah, thank you. So mine's collaboration. I think historically, when we're talking about leadership, I think what makes women great at leadership is that collaborative approach. Sarah, you mentioned in our last question as well, the exec's recognition across multiple organizations now, a leading factor that we recognize in leadership is more empathy. It's no longer necessarily the hard, fast, the courage, the strong, the big. And again, just looking at some of the focus groups I've worked with previously, information coming out that we absolutely now know that when we are, dealing with decision making, historically you would go after the person that makes that quick decision. They're decisive, they're strong. Is it the right decision? So I think women are really good at being able to lean in therefore and say, okay, actually, we need to have more of a collaborative discussion. And rather than as a leader running to the quick decision, that we're able to sit down and look at the multiple options to us and better steer a business and a team to the right decision.
Powerful words. And what I'd throw in there along a similar line is women within emotional intelligence practicing self-regulation, knowing when it's appropriate to enable people around them versus ego-driven leadership. Loudest voice wins. So I think women are particularly good at self-regulation. I think we can respect those. I think we also value people around us in a very unique way, understanding and spotting where people's lights can shine. Thank you. Hannah, thoughts on that?
Lovely. I'm loving this conversation. Actually kind of building off collaboration, I think we have the unique skill of systems thinking. So being able to join dots across a number of different places. Might have used to been called multitasking, just holding more than one perspective at one time. Crucial, right, for a changing, complex, fast moving and future looking function or discipline. So I think that's something that we can be proud of, something that we should be using in this particular discussion. How can it be amplified? I would say, with any of these skills that we're talking about, just put your hand up, volunteer for projects, lead projects, and talk about how you can involve the different departments that are going to make your project a success. And in that way, you're going to be showcasing that skill, but also how important that skill is to join those dots and think within a system.
Thanks, Hannah. That's really interesting you say that. Volunteering for projects, stepping up when your leader is absent, okay, work shadows, secondments, bubble assignments, all of those things, small risk, but big stretch. Taking that opportunity to safely, if we like, dip our toes into the water, and also influencing our learning teams or our HR teams or our leadership teams to offer those, and creating good systems and practices around those. I mean, everybody on the call has grown within organizations and has somehow had their potential spotted. So how can we create systems and practices that enable women to raise their hand, okay, and actually show their own potential, demonstrate how good they are? Fantastic. Thank you. Eva.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. So building on Hannah as well, just on the multitasking, I think being our adaptability as well is incredibly strong. We will navigate change, whether it be at home, personal life, and then in the office. But then it's also showing that we can embrace change and we've got the growth mindset. So we're willing to get our hands dirty as soon as the business changes, which is we'll always do. We have to be on the forefront of that as well. So that's when everything comes into play, from AI, business operations, whatever we are doing. All the things that we've talked about on this call all plays into that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I'm going to give the last word to Alison here, please.
Thanks, Annabelle. So I think another strength that women have is the active listening. I think within teams, like an individual, some people just want to be heard. And I think, to actually just listen to somebody, I think it builds a lot of trust within teams.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big strength that we can bring to everything, definitely.
100%. Don't we know that our best leaders are active listeners? And it's how we create that innovation. So you are completely right. Strong words, strong thoughts on that subject of leveraging the skills and amplifying. There's a lot about influencing the agenda for organizations within that to create those opportunities for the amplification, certainly. So the more we can do around that, absolutely right. This one for me is one I know you folks have got a lot to say about support networks. Being a coach for a group of women leaders on programs is one of the biggest privileges I have, because we create the most fantastic environments and support networks for the women attending that. But what mentors, allies, or communities can help women navigate uncertainty, and what can help them build resilience? What have we got maybe in our own organizations that we can talk about, that we can perhaps share as well? Please feel free to share any thoughts on that to help people listening. Eva, you've got some thought around that?
Yes, I'm going to shout out our Women's Network at CBRE, because they actually just won the Outstanding Award at the European Diversity Awards this year.
Fantastic.
So I'm so proud. So at CBRE, the Women's Network run a series of events where they'll actually interview senior leaders, senior female leaders within the business, so that younger stages in their career can understand how they can get to wherever they are now. It's not just straightforward, you might change sectors like Alison had said, so it's really good to hear from those senior leaders. But then on a micro connection, they also do a coffee roulette, so once a month you'll be paired with someone else in the business. I have made friends that I now go and stay with from across regional different parts of the business. You connect with them, you can either have a coffee in person or be on a Zoom. It has been absolutely invaluable, I think, for being at CBRE, but then also what the business must gain from that, I don't think they can even track, because we talk about what our roles are, different projects, and then everyone can get involved as well. So not only does it offer menopause support, financial support, but just everything, and you feel as a female so supported within this business. So I'd like to shout them out.
Oh, shout out then for that. I love the idea of that coffee roulette. I mean, what a great way. One of the, we know, don't we, actually, one of the things that makes us as humans more resilient is those networks. So you're creating those networks. Fantastic. Hannah.
Yeah, I mean, congrats, CBRE and the Women's Network there. That's an incredible achievement. Must be very proud. So I'd like to call out a couple of things. I think on the mentorship piece, I think reverse mentoring can be a really useful way to find out more about something that you're not familiar with, and to upskill both parties, right? So turns out for me, I'm not so good with the tech. And so I'm actually being reverse mentored right now by our social media champion, who is very good with the tech. He doesn't call it the tech, for example. That's just me. So he's helping me kind of understand how to reach a wider audience, but also how to kind of promote some of the stuff we're doing in our company. So we have some great networks as well, all internal, but they are, you know, menopause support, menopause awareness, other training specifically for women to help with their upskilling, events and other network opportunities for women. So some really nice things that we're currently doing, and it's my mentor, my reverse mentor, is helping me to celebrate those outside of the company. And then I don't think we have to look too far to find these networks and allies outside of our business. So I'm really curious right now about meeting people outside of my company and what they're doing. I've already been inspired so much by the women on this call and what they're doing and what they're thinking about. So, you know, look for those clubs, those groups, those professional networks where people are looking at inclusivity, looking at diversity, looking at change, all these forward-thinking things, and have those coffees, make those connections, because they will make you feel more comfortable. They'll make you feel like you've got a network, like you say, Annabelle. No one can really do this alone. We are social creatures after all. So yeah, the support is out there, and make of it what you want. You know, do the thing that would speak to you most in terms of feeling more resilient and more confident in this area.
Thank you, Hannah. I mean, absolutely great words around that concept of reverse mentoring. So for some people that may be new news, because we traditionally have the mentor schemes in progressive organizations, but the reverse mentoring, absolutely fantastic to hear your experience of that. So that's a great way. Sponsorship, allyship, male allies, okay, male allies that have got a voice. If you've got that imbalance at a senior level, the male allyship, really important. Thank you for that. Laura.
Yeah, so for me, the networking element of things, I have no problem admitting that previously networking for me, I didn't see necessarily as value add. And that's probably because I wasn't building on my network or putting as much into it so that I could get something out. That was one of the things that I wanted to work on, because I knew it wasn't a strength of mine. And having done that over the past couple of years and building that diverse network, and mentors, yes, but not only that, but sponsors and peers who will advocate and support you. And not even necessarily in the same function or the same company or industry, so it's leveraging communities of practice that are outside of your immediate sphere of influence, for example. Similar to Ava, we have a women's network as well, where we do I think they call it like speed coffee, or almost like speed dating. But we hold, as I mentioned earlier, we hold monthly sessions, and we cover things like burnout, boundaries, and we talk about breast cancer awareness, we talk about menopause wellness, career pathways, and it's, I say quick, they are an hour a month. We go through a series of quick, structured conversations. And one thing we talked about recently was not whispering wins. And it's one thing that I keep trying to promote recently. And it does support what, the question that we're discussing is, do shout about what we do well and celebrate our successes, to help navigate that uncertainty as well. And
Absolutely. And I know Alison's got words to share around this, Laura, as well. Thank you. So brilliant. Alison, share some of yours, please.
Yeah, thanks, Annabelle. So I think definitely the male allies for me is a big thing in Red Hat. So there's actually male ally training that I know a lot of our males, our managers, my manager actually does the training, and I think they amplify women's voices in the meeting. Which is an amazing thing. They recommend women for stretch roles. My manager's been fantastic in making a development plan with me, so I could get from project manager to senior project manager. They really have got our back, and they're our voice as well, which is amazing. And equally, we have theirs as well, actually. So it is a bit of a two-way street, which is really nice. We're always looking for, different awards that they can nominate us for, and equally for them as well. So I think it's a real, just a lovely environment to work in.
Alison, you mentioned something once when we were together before, and that was this kind of bigging up the people below you as you rise, which I just thought was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's lifters. Yes, there was an actual women's sort of like workshop called Lift As We Climb, and it's lifting. So when you are climbing up, elevate people with you and take them on that journey. And I think it's really, really important. Whether it be young women, females, coming up, or anybody really, and actually taking them on that journey, and celebrating that, which I think is quite a powerful thing, really.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. That was a real standout for me. So thanks for sharing, Nicole.
Thank you. I took a little bit longer to think about an answer to this one, actually, and it's a big question, and I think the more you look at it, the bigger it could potentially be. So first of all, I feel like I'm a little bit late to the stage. We also won an award at Personnel today for ladies, in gender diversity and inclusion. We do have a similar group of TP women, but I think the takeaway from that was, even as a group around this session, the continuity in the progression and the focus across multiple organizations in really understanding they do need those forums to push women forward, and we're seeing that. So I think first of all that's great and just really nice to see, and congratulations to all of the winners as well. Touching base very quickly then, and a couple of you have mentioned it, is the allyship. So for me, there's a representation piece. We talk about being able to see who you want to become. Do we have visibility? Do we have role models of female leaders and exec positions? And that is definitely one part of it, whilst bringing up other females behind you. But the male allyship piece for me as well is critically important. I think at a time when we are at risk of seeing social discourse amongst potential gender divides, in making sure that we're not bringing that into the workplace. So when I look at mentorship within my organisation, I actually look to mentor young men. within my team. And part of that development is having that conversation around equality, understanding where everybody's strengths are, understanding about the inclusion conversation, the gender conversation, benefits of people, how to respect each other, how to listen to each other. And it's really important that the message there, I think, from a workplace and socially is one of unity. It's absolutely critically important. So I think for me, it's really that it's looking at mentorship. It can be, and I think for me, it must be, and the allyship across gender. The final piece for me, though, I think, is around boundaries as well. So when we're talking about uncertainty and resilience as a female in a workplace, the second part to that chapter is boundaries for me. Making sure that you are able to have those challenging conversations going backwards. Making sure that if comments are made that you are not comfortable with, whether they be disparaging, whether it's framed as a joke, being able to kind of hold yourself in your own power and actually don't feel like you need to laugh along, but to stand your ground and say, hey, this is a professional environment, and I'd really appreciate you approaching me as you would with any other of your colleagues. I think there's absolutely something to be said there as well around how we support each other as a collective unit going forwards and what that looks like from a structure and a support view.
Nicole, fantastic words on that, and really thinking then about our skill of being assertive and being able to have those conversations without the label. We've talked about this as well, some of us, before, the double bind, you know, by challenging effectively without the conversation of, are we being bossy, are we being pushy? Or the other thing, or just standing by as the wallflower. So finding that that kind of balance within that, fantastic. Wonderful, great words. I want to kind of finish off today thinking about this last question, which is about how do we redefine success? So how can women rethink success and balance in a world where life and technology increasingly overlap? And within that, you know, there is also some hybrid working coming in. There is also our understanding of, you know, how we find that work-life balance. There's also the thought of, do we want to move the dial away from presenteeism, please? That is there in some organizations. So really, how do we redefine success? Laura, you clearly want to talk on this one.
Yes, I know I do talk about this in our sessions as well. And you touched on it there a little bit around the evolution of what balance looks like. So recognizing that priorities shift by season, if you will. So what balanced looked like 5 years ago may not well be the case now. And it's finding what works for us as individuals and to balance these changes, and not being afraid to be curious or ask questions to set ourselves up for success. And also redefining that success on our own terms, from, you know, doing it all to doing what matters most, for example. Setting digital boundaries. So we talked about working in a hybrid model, or even those that work fully remote. Sometimes it can feel less easy to set those boundaries remotely. So whether it's blocking time out in our diaries, whether it's giving ourselves that focus time, and also to build on that is that modeling of sustainable leadership. So advocating for ourselves in those boundaries, and promoting it for others too. So whether that's work-life balance, whether that's wellness and mental health, time and diary management, it's advocating for it. And we touched on it at the beginning, you know, we shouldn't need to ask for it. We are deserving of it to be able to do that in a world that is ever changing.
Excellent. And I know from your own shared experiences, you have been brave enough to share some of your own personal challenges around some of those boundaries and how you've managed those within your organization. So thank you very much, Laura. That's great. Sarah.
I think when we think about, the landscape at the moment and the sense of doom that might be around for a lot of people, I think we have a very strong, ability here in the world of hope and resourcefulness. We're able, progress really begins with hope, not negativity. And I think women have an ability to engender hope, to galvanize, to bring people together. We think about COVID, we look at what happened there when people became incredibly isolated, and it was a horrible time because people were losing people. But in communities, it was the women leading connectivity to help build, knocking on people's doors. When we get some shopping, dropping it outside the door. And if we've got that leading with empathy, understanding what it's like for other people, we can start to galvanize, our workplace, our communities in personal, professional life, and we can use that as a tool for hope and prosperity going forward, or progression. So I think it's those simple things of, we can work with hope, but we can not be off the mark with hope, because we're listening and we're using empathy to really connect with where people are. Because right now, whilst we are professionals, we have some very personal concerns that might be impacting our professional, performance, and vice versa. So let's bring those human behaviours and factors into it that we are so adept at.
You're correct. We're whole people, aren't we? So absolutely right. And welcome those into the workplace. I love what you said there around. I'd almost forgotten that about COVID, and about that, and about how we used and enhanced those skills as well, some of us, during that time. So thank you, Alison.
Yeah, I think just going on from what Laura was saying about about the balancing work, and I think journaling is actually quite a good thing to do with that as well. If you're journaling, maybe with it either work or personal life as well, and if there's identifying any blockers that maybe keep reappearing.
Brilliant.
And maybe you can actually reframe those. I know we talk a lot about the imposter syndrome, and actually reframing things that maybe could be negative into a positive thing. And I guess I think it's focusing on what we can control and influence as well, because we can't control everything, but we can have a look at, can we turn things into positive affirmations, and actually look at, and I think journaling helps as well to bring things out as well.
Yeah, top tip. Thank you so much. As you know, I'm a journaling fan, because the actual getting things down on paper, analysing and reflecting, and as you said, using them as an opportunity to reframe is tremendous, can really help us to spot opportunities on how you will do things your way, and the influence you can have your way. Hannah, words on this, please.
Yeah, I mean, great segue into what I was thinking of as an answer to this question. So sort of building on what both of you are saying, this concept around success specifically, kind of owning it and defining it yourself. I think we should be, I'm in a talent and culture role, so I do focus specifically on networks and systems in my company that support people. So not just my own development, how the company can support other people's. And I believe that if we can create a system where people feel they can self-direct their learning, where they can define what they need to learn, what they need to be successful, and have the confidence to ask for it and create their own succession pathway, I think would be a really magnificent thing to see. So we've got all these new skills that we've discussed today, and strengths that we already know we have. We know we know in our heart that we have these strengths. Let's build that into our career pathways, make sure that we are demonstrating how we're building skills on top of skills and broadening our portfolio of strengths, so that we can be top of the tree when it comes to this new area.
Fantastic. And just listen to what you said there around valuing breadth of skills, valuing the portfolio that we as women have, identifying that, working out organizationally what we value actually is part of that. What are we valuing? Are we recruiting against that? Are we promoting against that? Are we providing opportunities for people with huge breadth, not always seniority, but breadth, those portfolio careers, those multi-skills that we as women have in buckets? I don't know about you. I mean, I literally feel completely inspired by our conversation today. And it's very difficult almost for me to ask you the last one, but I guess what I'm briefly looking for from each of you, and I'm mindful that we should be brief here because, you know, we've talked a lot, but if I could ask you to distill down for me key takeaways from today's session, you know, top line key takeaways, that distillation of what you have heard, almost inspired you today, Sarah, from our panel contributors.
I think I'm in awe of everyone today and all the contributions, and I just think, you know, leading the way forward for women, we're in good hands. I think for me, it's all about that reinforcing of that self-belief. You know, that kernel of self-belief that comes from your very core that can be inhibiting and limiting is taking the lid off that and finding that way collectively to be able to grow and shape and influence the future in a much more positive way. So yeah, keep that self-belief.
Thank you, Sarah. Eva.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful conversations. I'm delighted to have been a part of this today. I think key takeaway for me, I'm actually going to, it was Alison's lift as we climb. I love that. I'm going to use it somewhere. And also I think the shift from having it all to defining what your all is. So taking the pressure off of yourself and you carve out your own path. I think that's very important.
Thank you, Eva. Brilliant. Thank you for your contribution, Sarah and Eva. There, Nicole.
Thank you. Yeah, mine's about breadth of skill, not just the depth, but the breadth of skill. I think quite often we can, and as people, you know, we're having discussions around the room, and God, what great discussions, and I feel very lucky to be part of it, actually, with these women. So thank you for the invite. But generally, I think it just resonated with me that when we're talking about breadth of skill, potentially that's one of our hindrances as women, right? Is that we're almost being requested to fulfill quite a small requirement, whereas actually that we provide so much more. It's not that we maybe don't fulfill that one requirement, it's that we provide so much more. And to take the confidence from that and to actually raise the expectation of our management teams, of our businesses, of our organizations to recognize it. And just imagine what that would look like if we just took the confidence to drive ourselves upwards, bring our teams with us. What would that exec team look like with the breadth of skill across multidiscipline? Huge cohesion, collaboration. I mean, it's just, yeah, the possibilities are quite incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. That vision for our exec team, you're right. Yeah. We are it. Right?
Yes.
Laura, thank you.
Yeah, so honestly, feeling truly inspired by the conversation. Again, thank you for inviting me as well. There's so many things I've taken away from today, and it's just generated so many additional thoughts and opportunities of things that we can do. The main things for me, similar to, as Alison mentioned earlier, the lift as we climb, I absolutely love. That I think is fantastic. We've talked a lot around that learning mindset, but also the not waiting to be noticed. So Nicole, you've touched on it, and Hannah as well, is, you know, take up that space. And, you know, we are, you know, entitled, we are allowed to be here and to do all of these things as well. We're all learning, men and women. But yeah, I think that the not waiting to be noticed element is something that I've really taken away from this.
Perfect. Yeah, and that slight discomfort that comes with it, as you talked about,
Yes.
that kind of and being able to step into that and lean into. And do you know what? We've got a group of people together today that can help you with that. You know, you can feel uncomfortable, but pick up to one of these team here and say, I feel this, and take some encouragement from it, from this network, even from today. Thank you so much there. Alison.
I think, I think championing the skills that we've got. I think I know Hannah's touched on it quite. I think we all have. And it's just really looking at those skills and say, do you know what? Yeah, we are wonderful women, and we've got so many skills that are transferable that we can, you know, like we can look at our future generation and bring them up. Say, we're lifting them up with our skills, and actually get them to believe in themselves as well. So I think as Sarah was alluding to, like the self-belief as well is a massive thing as well, because if we're seen to be present and seen to be believing in ourselves, then the future generations of women coming up will want to do that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alison, so much. Hannah, if you could close off for us on this section.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much. So I've been very inspired from today's conversation already, and yeah, a lot of really great things in there. I've really remembered that we are brave. And we are continuous learners. So those are two things that, I know already, but absolutely, we have these strengths, we have these abilities. My takeaway, though, my key takeaway is a practical one. I am going to use AI, our tool, as to help my self-awareness. So I really like the concept of throwing in there some of the things that I've been developing myself, some of the ways of working that I already have, and cultivating a little bit of a development plan and maybe a bit of a track history of what I have achieved as well. So using the tool to help me understand, where I'm strong and what I've got to look forward to as well.
Fabulous. Thank you. And what great words to close as well for us. Wow. Is what I'm going to say about that session. When we planned this session, I knew it would be good, but haven't we explored some amazing themes over the last sort of hour or so together? I mean, unbelievable. And it proves to me how fabulous a group of women are when we're together, when we're inspiring others, and we are absolutely going to stay visible and confident as these roles evolve. We have fabulous strengths we've identified. We're going to leverage those. We are going to be intentional in the ways that we work by the sounds of it. And it does sound as though the future isn't something that's just going to happen to us, certainly as this group of women. And I hope we've inspired other people who are listening to some of these parts of our conversation today. The workplace is changing, but we have got this extraordinary opportunity, I think, to change that. So as we've been listening, I've been thinking about, what am I going to do? And you've heard from the panel about what your key takeaways. And, this could be just a conversation. It could be like a connection. It could be a learning. It's one small step that each of us can feel empowered to take. Now, from today, we are going to be sharing some of the resources. We're going to be filtering out some of the key parts of the conversation and reflections from today, and there are ways for us to stay connected with each other as well through that. So for now, I just want to say thank you so much, because each of you has given up time for today, which we know is precious. But the way that you've been engaged, the way that you've engaged in the conversation, it has just been superb. So I very much enjoyed the conversation. I've taken so much away from it personally, and I know that you have too from what you've just shared. And I know it's going to empower other women listening from today. So thank you so much, all of you. Thank you.